Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar to review the 30 days of QGIS challenge. Many of you would have completed the challenge, and I would love to hear your thoughts about how the challenge went. I'm also going to do a recap of what everybody else has done to help each other learn about what everybody has been doing with QGIS. And again, we're going to open up for a bit of Q&A. The plan for this session is we'll do a bit of recap of what the challenge was about, what all the material we covered, and what everybody else did in the challenge. We'll do a bit of introductions. So we'll go around the room, learn about all of you, what's your background, get a bit of feedback from you of what worked well, how did you, would apply the skills you learned in your work, and maybe something what we can do better. This was the first time we ran a global challenge like this, and love to hear feedback on how we can do better. And then we'll spend most of the session doing Q&A. I think we'll try to wrap this up in an hour, but if there are more questions and interest, I'm happy to continue the session and answer all the questions. Just a brief about the challenge. The idea was that we have a course called Advanced QGIS that explores some advanced topics in QGIS, and we had videos and we were releasing that in YouTube. And the idea was, instead of just dumping all the videos and having people just do on their own, if we can come and watch all the videos and explore QGIS together, that gives everybody some motivation and a sense of community to go through this material better. And one thing that we've learned of teaching online classes for the last 4 years is that even though there's so much of material available, the sense of community and the ability to go through the material with others is the biggest motivator for people. So that's what we wanted to explore and see if we can have this material available in a structured way that helps you explore this better. About 37 videos. The idea was we'll release 1 or 2 videos every day that covers a topic. We'll have challenges, and you would watch the video, try to replicate the exercise in the video, and then we'll give you a challenge to try to do something new yourself and use QGIS for that. There were 4 weeks. Roughly the first week, we started with processing toolbox, learning what are the different algorithms available in the toolbox, how would you use the tools to solve your workflow. And this is something that new users in QGIS do not automatically discover, or even long-time users of QGIS are used to doing things in a way, and over time, a lot of the tools have shifted to the toolbox. So the idea was to give you the exposure of all the tools that are there, and you can just search for the tool you need, and you'll be able to use that. Another advantage of using the tools in the toolbox is you can do batch processing, and you can also build a workflow to solve a complex problem with just a single click of button. Then we had week 3 and 4. So week 1 and 2 was on the processing toolbox and model designer. Week 3 was on 2D and 3D visualization, animations. Many of people who use QGIS do not even realize there's a animation capability, temporal capability built in. So how do you take some data and explore the data in the temporal dimensions? And week 4, we explored some plugins. We had a total of 8 exercises that people had to solve, and we had one larger assignment. And the idea for this was, again, we show you how to do things, but then you will give you a challenge to do this. And Vigna, who's here, all of you know her as well. She usually helps participants go through their challenges and assignment. The challenge was also self-paced. It was not live, or it was not at a specific time. So you could work on it in your own time. Some of you might be busy during the week, so we gave a break during the weekend for you to catch up. And again, the challenge is still available. So many of you would have discovered this later, or maybe you're just discovering through this medium right now, and you want to work through this. Videos are available, and you can work through it at your own pace, and you can work through the material whenever you need. It was just incredible to see so many people across the world using QGIS, going through the material, struggling with some of the stuff, and then discovering how to do this right. So it was just amazing to see all of you. So a big round of applause for everybody who did the challenge and were able to do this. Again, this was quite widespread on the social media. We had a lot of people engage with this on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and on YouTube. And many of people are continuing to post their progress. So great job, everyone. We never expected that so many of you would participate and do this. So let's just give a virtual round of applause to everybody. And what better way to recap all the material than through looking it through the eyes of everybody who learned it. So what I want to do is I want to go through the whole material, but through your posts. So everybody posted their progress. So we're just going to go through and see what people did in the challenge. We're going to go through and recognize some of the people who worked on the challenge. We had several people who started the challenge and kept up to it. Many people who also publicly said, hold me up to it. I'm going to post my progress every day to tell you that what I'm doing. And again, it was really great to see everybody kind of using their community as a support system. And that's something that I encourage all of you to do it. Social media is, sometimes is seen as a way to just show off your work or just boast about your work, but you can also leverage that as a support system. And it gives you, like, you post something, 10 people like it, it's a piece of encouragement for you to say, let's keep working on it, let's keep learning. So in the first part, we cover a lot of the processing algorithms, and again, people added their own context around this. So we explored some of that when we learned about expressions and regular expressions. You can use ChatGPT for that. We are also learned about various tools in the processing toolbox. Some of them are not very obvious to people. So just learning about this will set you up on a path where you can now say, I'm stuck on a problem, I want to do something, let me search for the tool. And that's the skill that I wanted to build and help people discover. We also learn about batch processing that allows you to run the same algorithm or same model on multiple layers together. And again, this was a discovery for many people that now you can save time by running the same tool on multiple layers together. We had some fun also. If you hadn't discovered the Easter eggs in QGIS, you can type certain keywords in the coordinates bar and have QGIS transform into something. It's a fun little way to do this. Again, if you have kids around, show them this. It's a really fun way to engage them. Whenever I'm working on my computer, my daughter comes in and say, hey, is that QGIS? Can I type board in that? And then see what happens. So it's a fun little way to just, have some fun while you're doing the work as well. We learn about modeling. This is a difficult skill for beginners to pick up, but once you pick up, you realize that it can save you so much time. Here in this post, it says, I wish I knew about Modeler when I did my master's work. Instead of doing everything manually, you can now automate those stuff once you know how to build the workflow. Again, Model Designer, there are a lot of features inside of Model Designer which are not easy to discover by yourself. Over time, I've found so many of the small things that can help you solve tricky problems in the Model Designer. So we covered some of them, including things like conditional branch. So when you want to do something different based on different user input, you can now have a branch if else condition within the model itself, or you can use that user input to say, if the user selects this, let me use that value to build some expression. And these are some of the advanced stuff that we covered in the class. Even the assignment that we gave to some of this. And it was hard for some of you, but I think the idea is once you kind of sit down and work through this, it'll help you work on solve similar problem in the future. Animation, again, interesting perspective. If you have any temporal data, QGIS recognizes that and gives you this really good insight. And here, when people like the idea that you can now discover temporal patterns and not only spatial patterns using QGIS. GPS tracks, you can collect your own tracks. Several people did collect their own tracks and try to animate that. If you haven't done so, do try this next time you are just out walking or running. Collect a GPS track and try to visualize this in QGIS using our tutorial. It's a great exercise to learn how to work with temporal data. 3D, QGIS has come a long way in showing 3D data. Here with the 2.5D data, so elevation data, how can we visualize and animate 3D data? Try something similar with a DEM for your own region or get the real 3D data. You can actually download 3D vector data now, and QGIS can recognize this and work with it the same way. Expressions was a big part of the course. I personally find that this is something that sets apart QGIS with all other competition. Expressions are so powerful and so core to everything in QGIS. Once you learn, you really have superpowers. And I wanted to share some of those with you. And lastly, we showed some of the plugins that are maybe useful to you. And we heard a lot of feedback, even just as the session started, that some of you really liked this video and discovered some of the plugins that you were not there before. Another thing I liked about some of your work is you just didn't do the exercises we gave you, but took it and solved your own problem. And this is something that really makes me happy, that people learned some skills and applied it to the problems they had. And I encourage all of you to do this. Once you've taken the course, keep applying this, try to solve a problem in your work or a past problem that you had, try to automate that. And this is really where the real learning happens. And again, these are great examples of people applying the skills they learned into something that they did themselves. That was the recap. I would love to know a bit more about all of you. We have many of the people who have participated in challenge. It'd be nice to just hear from you and just get your thoughts on what you do, how you use QGIS, and then we can move on to Q&A. You can choose to introduce yourself in the chat, but if you prefer, you can also do it via video. We would love to have you introduce yourself via video. So if you want to do this, you can just raise your hand using the Zoom raise hands button, and then we'll just go through each of the introduction. Since we are recording this, and if you're not comfortable with your name or video appearing in the video, you can just do this via chat as well. So if you can just introduce yourself in the chat, and then others can know about you. As you are introducing yourself, along with your name and where you're from and what you do, I would love to hear some feedback on what did you learn? You can share something interesting that you learned during the challenge that you want to share, or say, I learned this and I applied this to my work. How did you do that? How some of you worked through each part of the challenge. How do you keep yourself motivated? What were some of your strategies that you can share with other people? How can we make it better? How can we do it better next time? So I would love to hear any of those. Any other topic that you'd like to learn? What, if you want to do this again, what kind of topics would you like to learn? So as you introduce yourself, keep this in mind, and we would love to go through and hear about each of you.
My name is Suleiman Nouri. I am from Niger, that country, but right now I am studying a master in climate change and marine science. These 30-day challenges helped me to solve many of the problems I had in the past few years. I start to use QGIS, I think around 2020, but using the batch processing you teach us, it helped me to save a lot of time. In the past, I used the clip one by one, and if you have a lot of layers, it will take a lot of time to do this. And also the 3D map, I appreciate that. I don't know how to thank you. Thank you very much, very much. This 30-day challenges helped me to do a lot of things. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for the feedback. And 3D stuff, I remember the first time I showed it in a live training that I was conducting, and it just blew people's mind. They said, we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for software that can create this fly-throughs, but just in QGIS, you can do this free of cost, and it just works so much better. And it has come a long way since then. So thanks for sharing, and glad to meet you.
Hi, my name is Aldo. I'm a geologist. I work in oil and gas. Use QGIS in oil and gas, not in superficie. It's in subsuelo. I'm sorry, I speak Spanish. This day in challenge is very important, but use the QGIS in my work in oil and gas is very important. The expression is very power in use the subsuelo in oil and gas. Thank you for your time and for sharing with over. Thank you.
Great, welcome. So yeah, we interacted offline a bit around expressions and how you can apply them. So it's really powerful, and that's a really skill that you can build on and solve really complicated problems easily with QGIS. All right, next, yes, Florian.
Yeah, well, my name is Florian. I work in the field of ambulance services, emergency medical services. I'm a PhD student. But I come from the social sciences, and I have not done, or I'm kind of an autodidact when it comes to QGIS. So this course really helped me get up my level to a very intermediate level from a beginner. And what I really enjoyed and what I'm using is the model builder, because before I basically did all the steps like you described it in the video, step by step. And then I found, like, I really had the exact case that somebody asked me, can you do this and that? And in my head, I was like, oh, now I need to go back and do 7 steps again and again. And this was one of the most helpful things. So right now I'm basically working, or I did a model that imports, that does the naming of the fields, so the renaming of the fields, and then also does an upload into PostgreSQL. And it does it all with one click, which took me like many more clicks before. And what I really enjoyed was your way of teaching, because I think it was very, very like kind and motivational the way you taught. So it was also with some humor you brought into, and the challenges are not like you're so bad and I need to teach you, but the other way around is like, see it as a challenge and try to solve this, and then you advance to the next step. That's what I really enjoy.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing. And I love that you were able to build a model that just the whole ETL process, like load some data, do some processing, and then push it into database. So that's a really great use case for QGIS. And yeah, I think around the challenges, we always, even people take our classes, we say the idea for the challenges is not to say you got this wrong, but the idea is for us to help you and get it to be better. And I learned it from my teacher when I was doing my master's program. And this was a very unique way of evaluation. The professor, when I was taking the class, she said, everybody in this class is going to get an A grade, but you have to earn it. So she said, we'll give you an assignment, you submit it. The first time I submitted, I got a D grade. And she said, no, work on it again. Here is the feedback, improve it. And then, that iteration was really helpful to say, what I did wrong, how to improve it. And then everybody got an A grade. So I think that's where I picked it up from, let's help people learn better and get better themselves. So yeah, glad to meet you, and thanks for sharing your feedback.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Quadrants. I'm a Ghanaian, and also a final year student in agriculture and environmental engineering. That's my undergraduate program. For a long while, I've been thinking of, using only open source softwares for my final year program. But then I had familiarized myself with the paid version, that's the commercial versions. But then I knew that QGIS was the most compatible, open source geospatial analysis software, and I needed to learn it. But then when I searched the internet, it was just about pieces of information which weren't adding up that much. So I tried applying for Java's course, that's the QGIS and Python, but then I applied for the scholarship. I couldn't get through, but then I knew that there was a package coming up. So when I saw this, I was very happy that I needed to join, because I need to use the open software or the open source for my final year project. And throughout, I think the batch analysis algorithm really inspired me. I'd always thought of, you'd have to clip and then later come and clip another one. And also some plugins like the Quick OSM. One time I wanted to draw map features, and I did them with my own manual self. I spent about 2 hours drawing map features of roads and buildings and stuff. I never knew of the plugin QGIS, the Quick OSM. So upon knowing that, I was so happy that sometimes I was so reluctant, because I knew that there were several plugins I could use. And as it stands now, I've been able to incorporate the QGIS through the 30 days challenge into my project work. And I'm very grateful for this initiative that you started. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, nice meeting you, and thanks for sharing your experience. With the PyQGIS course, applying Python with QGIS is the next in the queue for us to upload to YouTube. So look for that. Unfortunately, we have very limited seats in our live classes, so we can't accommodate many people. So that's why we decided to release it to everybody, so you can follow that. And again, I'd love to, we are still figuring out what's the right structure to release that. Should we do a challenge like this, or should we kind of do something different? But look for that on YouTube very soon. So great to hear that. Philemon.
Yeah, my name is Philemon. I'm a civil engineer from Burkina Faso. I was using QGIS on watershed delimitation. QGIS is very useful for that. And to design water supply system, there is a plugin called QEpernet, that I use sometime with QGIS to design my water supply system when it's really big, and this is a very useful plugin. What I love the most about the training, it's the model designer. I think it's designer. And I start using JS software with QGIS, and there was a tool, the similar tool called Model Builder. And when I started using QGIS, I was afraid if there is something like that. And when I discovered Model Designer, I was very happy because it's help automating the workflow, and it's really time saving. And I think that I discovered this tool with your course QGIS tutorial on this website. There is a list of tutorial about from basic to advanced. I follow all the all the steps, and when I discovered this thing, I was really happy because I thought that it's gonna be difficult with QGIS, but I think that with now QGIS and IGIS, it's almost the same. It's really powerful, and it's open, it's free, and it's like a family. I think I'm even on the same group on Telegram. It's a really big family where you can ask your question and you can find a solution really easy.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the QGIS community is very unique. That is very friendly and open and welcoming. I started working with the community, 15 years back, and I've found really great friends and colleagues. And again, they are very welcoming to new contributors, which is not true for all open source communities. So do join the QGIS community. Go to qgis.org. There's a page where there are all the community channels, including mailing list, and there's a Telegram group that Philemon mentioned, so you can interact with others. And most importantly, every last Friday of the month, there is a virtual meetup on YouTube. So there are talks given by the community members. You can also go and propose a talk and say, I want to talk about how I use QGIS, or I want to talk about some part of QGIS that I like, and you can hear from other people. So it's a great way to kind of connect with other people. It's a live stream. You can interact with other users and learn something new about QGIS. Join this monthly meetup. It's called QGIS Open Day. If you search for it, you'll find the webpage where it's listed. So hope to see some of you in the last Friday of every month going forward. Omar.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning.
Morning.
My name is Mohamed Omar. I am a GIS analyst, but I was an ArcGIS person, so all my workflows are in ArcGIS. So what I came to realize about this challenge was how robust QGIS is, and how QGIS has become such a behemoth that many people do not know about. So there are many people who are in this industry, and they are using commercial software, and they are assuming that analysis they are doing, they cannot do it there's no other option. I think it's due to many people do not know about it, but many people are stuck in that loop. But now I'm slowly coming out of that mentality, because QGIS has so many tools that many people do not know about. I didn't know about the model builder. I also used to use QGIS for just small tasks, because I was assuming if you do a heavy task with QGIS, it will crash. So I had that bad mentality, so I was stuck with Esri software. But now, through this challenge, I've come to realize that QGIS can actually run heavy tasks. You can do actual spatial analysis that can be done in commercial software. So I used to use QGIS in when I want to make 3D maps. I will use QGIS to prepare my data and then take it to Blender and then make a sort of a 3D map and so on. I didn't even know about that there's an aspect where you can do the fly-throughs in QGIS. So for the fly-throughs, I used to use Google Earth, which was very engaging. So QGIS is so much easier in that, and also the temporal, the animation, the time aspect. So I didn't know the QGIS can actually accommodate such data. So it was interesting to learn these existing tools that are there in QGIS, which many people do not use it, which many people do not know about. And I'm grateful to you for this challenge. Actually, when I came through it, I was just scrolling on Twitter, and then I came through the challenge, and then I thought about doing it, and then I thought about, do I have time to do it? And then I said I will do it because I wanted to go in depth in QGIS. I knew how to use QGIS. I just used it for simple tasks, but I didn't know about the expressions, how to use the regular expressions, how to automate some things, how to use the model builder, all these things that I didn't know about. So it has been, some of the challenges were tough. Some of the challenges were tough, but I managed to do them. I pushed myself to do it. I will continue to do it. I don't know if the videos will be up on YouTube, but I will be using some videos for further, when I want to do some reference, I want to go to YouTube and then look it up. I had a question about another thing. If someone wants more clarification on the videos, let's say more tutorial on the videos, can they still request, or what can they do?
Yeah, so thanks for your introduction and sharing the experience with the challenge. So the videos for the challenge are public now. They're going to remain that way. So you can reference them whenever you need. If you have questions about a specific aspect of that particular topic, let's say you are watching the video on 3D fly-throughs, and you said, how can I control this lighting, or how can I make this speed up? The best way to ask that is through a comment on the video. I have replied to every comment that has come through on all the videos on the YouTube channel. So if you have a question about that video, just put it there. That also helps other users when they have similar questions. There's one place to do that. If you just have a general question on like, I want to do this, is QGIS the right tool, or can I do something else? Feel free to email me. I also answer all my emails. So if I hear from any of you or anybody, I'll try to help you out. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And also, one of the things you said stuck with me is that, many people assume QGIS cannot do certain things. They've been told otherwise, or they had some experience, or they had nobody tell that QGIS can do. So what QGIS lacks essentially are salespeople. When you have a commercial software, there are salespeople who will go around and sell that software to you and tell you, do the demos and show you all of this. And QGIS lacks that. And in the way, the community has to become salespeople. So as now you discover the power of QGIS, go and tell your friends, your colleagues, and show them what QGIS is capable of. And that's how we can help more people adopt this software.
Maybe you can give me a chance to be next.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Haron Mbu. I'm from Kenya, and I'm a PhD student at the University of JKUAT, doing my PhD in horticulture. I have to admit that I was not very good in use of GIS and RS. And my project entails modeling water productivity using some spatial data from FAWAPO, and also correlating that with micro modeling using aquacrop. A friend of mine introduced me to Spatial Thoughts and told me that I know you are not good in GIS, but just go to this website, follow up their videos, follow up their tutorials. I think in a matter of 3 months, and so far so good. I started the course late, and I'm still progressing, but I was very interested with the issue of plugins, and I checked on the issue of plugins, and one thing that assisted me much is I had so many plugins in my QGIS that were making it to slow down. So I've had to mute some of those plugins which I'm not using, and I've seen my QGIS improve in the way I'm doing my analysis. QGIS has assisted me in that some of these plugins, like the forward plugin downloader and WAP plugins, initially we used to go to the WAPO website, download the data, then transfer it to QGIS. But now there's a plugin that you can just use inside the QGIS to download the data, do your analysis there, and make your smart map. So I'm still soldiering on, and I will continue with the course even after the webinar. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, nice meeting you. Thanks for introducing yourself. The plugin issue, many people when I meet, it's like my QGIS takes 5 minutes to start up. What's wrong? Or my QGIS throws all kinds of error when you start. So I think using profiles and making sure the plugins you are not using are turned off really helps you improve your experience with QGIS.
Shall I?
Yes, Santosh.
Hi. Hello to everyone. Great. So I'm really happy to be in this session. I'm not to Spatial Thoughts. I think I took my first QGIS class in 2020. So since then, I'm just using QGIS. And as I just mentioned, like there are no salesperson for QGIS. Now I'm working in Saudi and kind of advocating the open source, and I made them to use QGIS for most of the stuff. But regarding to this challenge, I didn't get a time to do it, but surely I will tell all the challenge. And I've been working in Spatial Thoughts also for 2 years. So I think I'll be like using those skills to do this challenge and doing great.
Santosh used to work with us, and he was part of Spatial Thoughts, and he's responsible for creating some of the material that you saw with the Advanced QGIS course. So yeah, good to have you back, and it's great that you are now out in the world promoting QGIS to people and spreading that in Middle East. Okay, we're going to move on. So we're going to move on to the Q&A session. It's an open-ended session. Feel free to ask any questions. You can use chat to ask a question, just the way we can keep it structured, and we'll pick up each question from the chat and answer that. What makes a good question for this session? Anything about QGIS, anything about spatial analysis? How do I do X? I want to do this. Can you suggest a tool? I got, have this problem. What's the best way to solve it? So those are the kind of questions I would love to answer. Anything about career or, what's the state of GIS industry and so on? Love to answer that. I would want to skip questions on specific videos for the challenge. So you say, in this video, I had this problem. Can you show me how to do this? You can just ask them as comments on videos, and I'd love to help you with more information that will help you solve the problem. So we can, I'm happy to answer any questions related to QGIS in general or workflow related. So please you can put them in chat, and I'm happy to answer. Since the group is smaller, you can just also raise hands and ask questions live if that's easier instead of typing. That's also going to be fine. So let's open up. We're open up for Q&A. You can go ahead and ask your questions.
Then maybe I'll ask my first question. Again, this is something related to my work only. Yes. So I've been rendering the TIFF files. So in my organization, they have the ECW format. I just saw how good it is able to compress, and also it's able to load. When I compare to COGS, the ECW is really great. But when I wanted to read it in GDAL, it is very difficult. Although it is having some package which we can download, and just for reading, it's little difficult. So for doing huge image renderings, do you have anything suggestions in QGIS in specific or in any open source?
What kind of images? Are they aerial images or are they
aerial images? Aerial images.
Have you tried compressing them as TIFF with JPEG compression?
Yes, I did try. I did use our GDAL method to do COG compression, deflate, and but again, it's not as effective as ECW. And again, when I do it also, the ECW format compatibility is easy to render also. So I don't know, should I want to try it with ZAR or something new, which is
let me just share some of the stuff. So when you are working with raster data, you do not want to work with uncompressed raster data because they can get very big. You want to compress them. There are many compression options. We have a course on GDAL tools, which are command line tools, which are widely used for doing this kind of work. QGIS is also built on top of these tools. You can do all of this within QGIS itself, but command line tools are generally faster and more amenable to automation. So what you might be doing is this, right? You say, take my input TIFF file, use the deflate compression. Deflate compression is a lossless compression, which is that it preserves all the original data as it is. When you work with aerial imagery, you can actually go and compress it as JPEG. That's what your camera and other equipment does, because you can tolerate some sort of loss of data because it's just visual data. You can still keep the same visual quality. So for aerial imagery, I actually recommend using another compression called JPEG compression. So instead of doing this deflate, you don't do this. You just say, I want to do JPEG compression along with other options. So you don't save this as internally RGB, but in a YCBCR color space, you can adjust the quality. And if you use this approach, you should get very, very close to what ECW offers you. Okay. ECW is a proprietary format. Yeah. So again, you are doing this in open, it's compatible. JPEG compression will get you very close. Plus, if you have your image in this workflow, we also say that you have this image, when you load this in QGIS, it takes a long time to load because QGIS has to decompress it and it takes a long time to render that. To improve the rendering, the way to do this is create something called overviews. Overviews are low-res versions of the same image, which are stored inside the image. And once the overviews are there, it'll load in an instant. Even if highly compressed data, you just load it, it just renders. So I would recommend you try this. This is the best way to do this using open source software. All of this is possible in QGIS if you go to load any raster and right click, say create overviews. But you are just much better doing this on command line if you're working with large rasters. So try this out and I'm sure you'll see the comparison.
Definitely I'm going to try it. And sure, I'm going to try this. And if you have something to share with ZAR, should I want to try that even? Like, is it good to try?
No, so ZAR is a format that is more suitable for gridded data, which is like a mesh data. So if you have multi-temporal data which is stored as like a netcdf file, those are better suited for ZAR. But for raster aerial imagery, cloud optimized GeoTIFF is the better form.
Yes,
but you can compress COGS with JPEG. So that's what you need to try.
Okay. Sure, I'm going to try that.
There's a question, is a course on PostGIS will be available in Spatial Thoughts? It's been on my wish list for a while, but I don't think I'll have time anytime soon to work on a PostGIS course. Instead, we can recommend some PostGIS courses and books. So Matt Forrest has a really good book on spatial SQL that I would recommend, and you can try this out. So we can add a link to that in the chat here. So you can find Matt Forrest's spatial SQL book. That's the one I recommend currently. Some other questions. Some advices to build a GIS portfolio and project idea that you can initiate yourself with open data. Great question. I think one of the things that people recommend is when you take courses, just putting your certificate is not enough. If you are lucky to hire people, I talk to many people who run companies and are looking to hire people. Certificates are the least of the value they look at. So you say, this person has done 10 online courses. Well, what have they learned? How can they know? And you say, oh, I'm really good with QGIS. How can they know? So a portfolio is really important where you can say, this is the work that I've done. And that's why people posting about this challenge is a great way to show people that, see, I'm actually practicing, I'm building those skills and doing this. I want to show this really post about a nice post from Alex Nito, who posted about the same thing recently. So Alex Nito is a QGIS consultant, a very well-known member of the community, also works on the QGIS documentation. And again, he has a really nice blog where you can learn about some of the QGIS stuff that he does. So he had posted about this, like career advices, don't just share all the courses you've done. Experiment and show how you applied the skills you learned into your own problem. And if you look at all the comments from other members, it's just, it says, yes, show, don't tell, right? That's a kind of a mantra that you need to follow, that, people are doing these challenges, are showing people what they've done instead of just saying, I did this course. So your post about what you did is more important than, if you're done the certificate. So do that. There's a video where there's how to build a GIS portfolio. There's a YouTube video. I'll leave a link to this in the description of this video on YouTube. So check out the description. There's a nice video that showcases what are the kind of essential things about your GIS portfolio. You can take the stuff you've done for this course. You can work on any other project you've done in other software or your master's work or your thesis work. Try to implement the same in QGIS. Create maps, do analysis, build models, and all of that will go into your portfolio. You can host it on GitHub free of cost. They'll also show people how you can create a website. That's also an important skill. So show that you have a website, or GitHub portfolio, and there are some really nice templates that are available. So you can use that to showcase that. On what to do, advice I have is don't chase the latest cool thing. So you may say the latest cool thing is, AI and LLMs, and, a few years back it was, deep learning, and now it's all AI. But again, the skills that are really in demand are the core skills. And to really shine in the work you do, you need to be really passionate about it. So pick the stuff that you really like doing and then go deep into it. And there are so many problems which are just solved superficially, even today. So you can go and solve that deeply. And once you do this, you'll be one of the few people in the world who really know how to solve this. And that's what will get you your next job or your next assignment. So again, pick something that you're really passionate about. And that's where you'll shine, because doing this kind of stuff is hard. You spend a lot of time, and unless you're passionate about it, you won't be able to do it.
I have maybe two simple questions for you, or easy to solve. I just posted something in the chat that is basically from ORS tools and matrix calculation. So I was wondering how you can take this one step further, because what my idea is with the screenshot I just posted is the from IDs are all the same points, and the to IDs are, or the from IDs are point layers and the to IDs are point layers. But I want to know which is the shortest distance from each from ID. And that is my question. So how can you calculate and take this matrix calculation one step further? And maybe you can just give me a hint how to figure that out.
Yeah, I'll give you better than a hint. I'll give you a tutorial. We already have a tutorial on how to do this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you. So the idea is when you do a distance matrix will tell you from each point, what's the distance to every other point. So if there are 5 source points and 5 target points, you'll have 25 entries. What you want to know is from the 5 source points, what's the closest one? Yes. And the idea is to do a group statistic here. So we say, give me the highest value in the duration column or distance column, group by from ID. So in the challenge, we did a group statistics. You can do the same group statistics here. It's a max of duration, group by from ID, and they'll give you the shortest distance. We have a distance matrix tutorial on the QGIS tutorial website, which shows how to do this. ORS tools uses the OpenStreetMap network data. It's great what you use, and you don't need to install or download anything. You can use the plugin to compute the distance matrix for you using the OpenStreetMap data. But if you have your own network data, so if you have some data with some directions, etc., that you want to use for distance matrix, the tutorial here shows you that. So here is this tutorial locating the nearest facility. I'm going to share that in the chat, and we'll also add it to the video description. So here, same concept, you do a distance matrix, and when you do the distance matrix, you'll get a table like this. So let's say, yeah, so from origin ID, destination, origin ID, another destination, and we have the total cost. And how do you find for each origin ID, what's the highest or lowest cost? Essentially, you want the lowest cost here. Yes. So we can use the execute SQL command, the tool that exists in the toolbox. And you can just do a group by query using the SQL tool here. So this is the query. Select origin destination ID, minimum of total cost, group by origin. And if you run this query, you get a table that looks like this. And again, this tool also gives you the actual routes, not just the nearest one. You can actually see the shortest path from each source to each destination. So maybe this is also worth trying and see if that can help.
Wonderful. That's exactly what I was looking for. Thank you. And third one, if I may.
Sure.
So another screenshot I was just posting is I have a population demography development, but I want to use a 2D animation, and it should be possible to use the temporal controller, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, but this does not contain any temporal data. And the thing is, I have it in columns. So where it says Einwohner, it means inhabitants 2022, 2020, 2030, and 2040. But this is no temporal data. So, and I don't get this together in my head, how to transform it into a temporal data so I can use this and visualize the data other than just having 3 layers, right? And each layer shows a different colorization. Yeah,
so this is again a quite common thing that comes up in not only this kind of visualization or, this kind of population data, but in many fields of GIS, where in hydrology, ecology, a lot of the data is shared as columns. Let's say I have this ID, population in 2022, population in 2030, population 2040. How do I kind of animate this? Remember, the way QGIS or any GIS software works is the animation is simply says, I'm displaying data for 2022. I'm going to apply a filter and display all the rows which are 2022. How do I apply a filter on columns? GIS doesn't work with columns. GIS works with rows. So your first challenge is transforming this column data into rows. And this kind of transformation is known as converting wide tables to tall tables. So what you want the data to be reformatted is ID 2022 population, ID 2030 population, same ID 2040 population. If you have this data, and now I can say this the column containing the year is my temporal column. And then you can now, when you say 2022, you only select the rows which are 2022. How do we turn this wide table into tall table? Typically, when I encounter with this, I go to my script. I have written the Python script, which converts this wide tables into tall tables. An example of this is ID 1, species 1, value 1, species 2, value 2, and so on. So you have a similar thing, species 1, year 1, value 1. And using Pandas Python library, there's a function called pd-melt, and it just converts this into a tall table. And I think we also have an example from our recent class, right? We had an example. Do you remember?
Yes, it is there in notes. I can find it.
So we had actually did an example of exactly what the data you have and converted this and showed how to do this. So we have some example. We'll add it to the video notes. If find out, Rina will share in the chat. But this is the way to do this. I'll share this pivot script. You need to modify it slightly because this is for 2 columns, like 2 IDs, but you can work it to transform this.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks.
There's one question on dividing circular parcels. I need to divide circular pivots into 4 quadrants each. How do I split circular quadrants into each? The way I would do this is first I would compute the centroid of each of the pivots, and then I would draw a line 90 degrees. I would draw a line at 0 degrees. And once I have the line here, I can split that polygon layer with the line. You can also do this using expressions. So how do you create those line segments? How I want to draw a line from centroid 0 degrees at, which goes horizontally. How do I construct that line? I can have an expression saying that from my coordinates, you have some radius, add some coordinates towards left and some coordinates towards right. And once you have the coordinates, you can use the make line function and create a line. But now how do I create that line layer out of this? The way to do this is QGIS. There's this really wonderful tool called geometry by expression, where you can create a geometry using expressions. And you can say, let's say this was a point layer. And I would say, I want to create a line from it. So there is a function available in the expression called make line, which says I take a list of 2 points. So I can say, take this geometry, I want to use this function. So the first one is geometry. I can use another function called translate. Translate will offset a geometry. So you can say translate this geometry by X. So let's say, what's the delta X you want to move? Assuming this data is in meters, whatever plot you have, centroid is in meters, I'll say offset by minus 1,000 meters. So this is your first point. And then your second point would be translated by plus 1,000 meters. So now I have 2 points horizontally offset from the centroid. And when I run this, I'll get a line layer at each centroid. Similarly, I can do the same with a vertical line. So I can say I want to make another line which is vertical, offset by 1,000 meters above and then 1,000 meters below. I can just do combine and say I want a combination of this line plus this line. And now when I run this, I'll get cross at the centroid of that central pivot polygon. And now I have a line layer, I have a polygon layer, there's an algorithm for split by lines. use that on a polygon layer to split by lines that you just created using expression. So here's the expression in the chat. We'll also add it to the video description. I have done something similar with expression. So I want to share this blog post, which might also be helpful. This was a real project that I worked on, and I really pushed QGS expressions to its limit. The idea was that doing some analysis with the rain gauge stations, very similar problem that what you're saying, that I want to do something with quadrants around each station. The problem was, again, there's a video around, so I explained the whole process, but essentially the test that we want to implement was, here is your rain gauge station at the center. I want to select stations. There are multiple stations around. I want to select stations within 25 kilometers of this station in quadrant 1. How do I define this quadrant 1? And I select, so there are 10 stations. I said I want to select 2 stations from quadrant 1, 2 from quadrant 2, 2 from quadrant 3, and 2 from quadrant 4. So centroid, I want to define what does the quadrant mean. So angle 0 degree to 90 degree. And then, how do I select this? So the solution here is, you say, using expression, create a line from the centroid to each of those stations, measure the angle of that line. If the angle is between 0 to 90, then you are in the first quadrant. And then use aggregate expression to say, give me a list of those and I'll select the first 2. And here is the angle, the expression for this. It's just saying angle at vertex from each point to the next point. If it's between 0 and 90, figure out the distance is within 10 kilometers and select 2. Right? So you can use this kind of expressions to select and process this data. Again, this was done just using a single run of this expression. You just select the right stations from the quadrant. So you can check out this to understand how those expressions work and how you can use this. The key for your problem, though, since you want to use this to split the data, you have to create a layer. So create a line layer using the geometry by expression, and then once you have the layer, you can split that. Florian, I'll try to find the script, but if you can't make it work, please reach out to me. I have the script somewhere which will work directly on the data. So in case you can't figure it out how to change this, I will find it and share it with you.
Well, thanks. I keep it as a challenge. And
yes.
If I don't succeed, or if I succeed, I will reach out.
Sure.
But thanks a lot.
No worries. This question, how do I package TIFF layers the way you can use package layers? Interesting question. How do I raster layers in a geo package? We talk a lot about geo packages in our course. So let's say we have a geo package. I have this raster. How do I package this raster inside a geo package? There is no tool that exists in the toolbox to package a raster layer inside of a geo package. But if you're using QGIS, you can take a layer, drag and drop it into a geo package in the browser, and it'll be imported inside it. So you can say import successful, and now you can see my Denali DM is inside the geo package. So a drag and drop using the QGIS browser works, and this is the way you can import that. I think we are out of questions. Thank you all for joining this Q&A session. Great to have all of you participate and share your progress. Please keep learning. Please keep in touch. I'm reachable by email at ujjwalaspatialthoughts.com. Feel free to write me. People call me crazy for sharing my email in open and saying that I answer all emails, but I do. So if you write me an email, I will answer, and I'll love to help you. We have a lot of QGIS learning materials on our website. We also organize them in a structured way. So you can, regardless of what level you are, you can start working on it. If this course was too advanced for you, go to a learning path, start with the basic course, start with the basic tutorials, and you can develop your skills and work through those. So do check out those. And we have anonymous feedback form. I'll just take 2 minutes. If you can just scan this QR code or go to this bit.ly link and give feedback. I think this will really help us capture some of the feedback in a structured way. So if you're watching this on the video or if you're on the live call, please, you can take 2 minutes to submit your feedback. It's a wonderful meeting all of you, and hope to hear from you and see your progress as you keep applying and learning QGIS. Thank you.